Right, so-called greedflation is being traded in for wageflation. While business profit margins are shrinking, wages are growing faster than prices. Let's bring in President of Americans for Tax Reform, Grover Norquist. Great to see you, Grover. Okay, so that's the headline from the Wall Street Journal op-ed. Says essentially softer demand, more supply, and rising labor costs all take the air out of profit margins. But there's been criticism that corporations are jacking up and enjoying these record profits in the wake of COVID, inflation, all of it a perfect stew.
Well, I think a lot of it's, look, we should have been coming out during this administration, the Biden administration, in a period of strong economic growth. All the COVID shutdowns were finally ending, even in blue states, except two things happened. Biden threw more spending on top of the overspending during COVID, and you saw the jump in inflation. When a company knows that the price of energy is going up because the Biden administration has that as a policy, they begin to charge more so that they can afford the higher costs that Biden is putting on all of their energy and, frankly, all of their inputs through inflation. So that's the idea that it's the company's fault that they raised prices when Biden raised the costs of all the inputs and threatened to do more and threatened to raise taxes. All of these policies raise prices and costs to every American. We're beginning to shut down some of the most dramatic overspending. There won't be any more trillion-dollar add-on bills, the $2 trillion that Biden threw in the first weeks, and then another trillion, and then another trillion. With the Republican House, that's over. That's not happening. There is a cap on the growth of spending, still growing, but more slowly on domestic discretionary. And the Supreme Court and Congress said to the president, you can't add $400 billion to deficit spending by taking the debt that students had accumulated and putting it on the shoulders of working-class Americans.
Well, let me ask you quickly, because
progress.
Because the White House is out there touting Biden economy, how it's going well, the Bidenomics, and they've got an all hands on deck. A full court press. Everybody is going out to talk about this. They'll talk about 13 million jobs created, that inflation has peaked, it's on its way down, wage growth is happening, all of these things. How does that line up with reality?
Well, we saw this under Bill Clinton. The first 2 years of Bill Clinton weren't very impressive. The second 2 years, when he lost the House and the Senate, and the Republicans actually cut the capital gains tax and they stopped overspending, things got better because the president had lost control. Biden has lost control, not of the regulatory costs he puts on energy, but on overspending. And the tax policies, his budget would take the corporate income tax higher than China's, the capital gains tax in the United States, double China's. None of those things are going to happen now. So the economy is looking ahead and saying all the things we planned that Biden was going to do that would further hurt the economy, the foot's come a little bit off the throat. We should see things get a little bit better because Biden's being stopped from spending $400 billion on student debt, doubling the capital gains tax in the United States over China's. Those things aren't happening now. Well, that's the good news.
Yeah, they are leading with that on the campaign trail, and we'll see because poll numbers show not exactly lining up with reality for most Americans, at least not yet. Grover Norquist, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Shannon, thank you.